Okay. Okay. Hi, yogis, and welcome to my interview today with my friend and fellow yogi, Jason Horak. Jason teaches here in Arkansas at a local studio and a senior center, and also in the park sometimes when it's warm. Jason, thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. I'm so glad to see your little face. It's been a long time. This interview is part of our 200-hour teacher training at Renew Hope Yoga. And today I just want to ask you a few questions about your journey to becoming a yoga instructor.
All right. It sounded very natural.
I bet not. I read it. But anyway, okay, Jason, what led you to the practice of yoga? And in particular, your desire to teach?
I still don't even know if I want to teach some days. But I don't know what led me. I've always liked stretching. Um, and as I've gotten older, I needed to do. Come on up, Scampy. Come here. Come here. He's being weird. Come here. Come over here. All right, bye. And as I got older, like some of the, you can't go hard all the time. You have to find some balance.
But didn't you start with martial arts?
Yeah, I've done martial arts. When I was in the army, I did a bunch of push-ups, you know. Um, I did karate when I was a kid, but it was not particularly useful. I did other things. But yeah, sort of trying to realizing that I needed to do something to try to find some balance on the other side of doing a lot all the time. And then as you become a more mature human and you're less young, you need something to support the other side of that, whatever that is. You realize it more. And when you're young, you can get away with a lot of stuff and it's no big deal. But I think as you get older or more mature or more complete, you realize that you need the softness to the hardness, I guess. What do you think?
I think we're not invincible anymore.
That's yeah, you learn you're very mortal. So
Yeah,
mortal. So
yes, we are.
human.
And we got to have that, like you said, the other side. We got
Yeah,
to,
and there's a real strength in the softness, I think, It's not it's again when you're young, it's harder to see it maybe. But if you don't understand both sides of that, you can only be so strong.
what's a support for it's, it supports us on the days when we need it.
Yeah.
That's every day.
Every day probably we do need it.
Yeah.
Some days we even know it. Some days we even know we need it.
Yeah. Some days we don't. So, how would you say that you include yoga in your daily life?
I definitely anytime I have to stand in a line, God, I've stood in so many lines in my life. I hate standing in line. But like that's just one more every problem is an opportunity. Uh, you know, uh when I stand in a line now, I can like mountain, I could do like an interesting breathing technique. I could uh, you know, I can be in that moment and be okay with it, not just sending your mind out into the ether, but actually being there and being okay with it. Because we can distract ourselves with imagination, but being okay in the real world is more important. And being present, like I think even in like I would just like a conversation with people, like just actually being in the moment with a conversation with a person. Because I think there's a lot of like throwaway interactions in our lives, and so being more mindful of that. And then for sure, man, life has highs and lows. It's a rocky road sometimes, and just the overall balance of that, and just being able to breathe in a stressful situation and know you'll get through it.
And it takes
Yeah.
patience. It helps me with patience, I think, and it seems like what you described at first.
Are you impatient?
Not really, but I breathe. Okay, so what do you like? What do you enjoy most about teaching? What brings you joy in your teaching?
So like, it's fun to interact with people sometimes, but sometimes you'll be like helping someone, or you could be guiding someone into their situation, into their pose, or into their space, and like you see, there will be a moment where you'll see it, where they'll get it, and not because I'm necessarily telling them, but you have to figure it out in your own body and your own whatever, and you'll see them get it, like they'll get somewhere that they've never been, or they'll like embody the pose in a way that's maybe not how I called it, but like it's right for them, because
Mhm.
they have to do the yoga. All the people who invented yoga are dusts. So we have to figure out the yoga. It's true. We have to figure out the yoga in our own bodies if we want to keep the yoga going in the living beings in this world. And so they'll kind of embody the pose in their own way. And like, I don't know, sometimes you can really see it. It's very cool. And then it's also cool to like guide somebody somewhere they've never been. Because sometimes I know people can do stuff and they don't believe it. Like I'll be like, do it, like lift your leg or straighten this. Like I know you can do it. And they're like, oh my God, I did it. And I'm like, I'm not even surprised. Like I totally knew you could do this like 5 minutes ago. They're surprised. I'm not surprised. Um, but then there's that thing where when you do something you didn't know you can do, that like you kind of become more than you were,
Mhm.
like a little bit. And I love seeing those moments. Those moments are worth it.
But not just in the
Well,
asanas.
not just in the asanas, for sure. For
Okay.
sure. Sometimes you see people come out of a something like a shavasana or a meditation, and like I said, they're just embodying that, whatever that is. And maybe that never happened for them before or whatever. So that's fun to see. It's fun to like witness people grow, but not to get so like it's not just me, it's them. I don't know. That's fun. I don't
Okay.
really like selling yoga pants, if that's your question.
You don't like what?
I didn't get in it to sell yoga pants. I don't know why. I don't know why I do this, but it's not that.
I agree. I understand.
Um,
Is I yeah. I know that about you. I was with you long enough to know that.
it would be like, I don't know how to sell yoga pants.
No, you could sell yoga pants.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I know a couple of people who buy yoga pants from you all day long, but
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Is there anything in particular that you always include in your class, like breath work, meditation, any like down dog, anything?
I really have trouble not doing tree in a class. I love tree.
Too.
I think it's underused. I think it's great balance. I think there's lots of modifications you can use to make it very accessible. And like the goal of this practice physically, I'm not talking about the rest of it, but the goal of this practice, right, is not so we can put our legs behind our head or stand on our hands or any of that. It's so like we can live our lives and like move around our house and do stuff and like put a sock on by ourselves and like have a happy and independent life as long as we, you know what I mean? Just like regular,
Yes.
useful, physical things. Like, doesn't matter if you can do push-ups or whatever, but like it would be nice if you could sit in a chair and get up on your own.
I
Like,
totally understand. I've been in the
like,
hospital enough.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
and if you can't, it's a big deal, and one of those things, if you use it, you lose it. And I think tree is just such a wonderfully like, it's a good balance pose. It's good for your mind. It's good for your focus. It's good because there's my dog barking.
The
It's good because
balance.
it's humbling, because there's days where like I can't stand on one foot, because there's stuff going on, and just Like I don't have to figure out what it is going on, but I have to make peace with it. And we all get that way. But you can use a wall. You can have your toes on the floor. There's lots of things you can do. I just love tree. I just think it's such a wonderful, simple, like stand on one foot pose.
Low too. No, and I can't put my leg up on my thigh, but I can put my foot, I mean, up on my thigh. I can't. But that's just me, but I can do
Good.
tree.
I know you can do it.
I don't need that.
I
You've
know you-
inspired me. I'm going to get up and do tree every morning.
You know, if you do the so if you sit on the ground and you do Janu Shirshasana, like which is where you put the it's like where you put one leg straight and you put like the other foot into your thigh, you know, like just like a stretch.
Mhm.
If you can do that, then you can do tree there.
Oh, yeah.
You just don't believe it, but you can. Because you can stand near a wall and you could just do that.
Yeah.
And you got to
No, I
push
can-
the foot, you got to push the foot into the thigh and then push the other foot into the ground, but then also push the standing leg back into the foot, like that.
But you don't have to take your foot all the way up to your thigh. You can put it on
You
your,
don't
you can
have
keep your
to.
toes on the floor and just don't, you know. Yeah, you've inspired me. Good for you. You always do. That's
But anyway, I love tree because I think it's super great for a lot of reasons, and I think it's under called.
Yeah. Is there anything that you can think of in any of your classes that just something weird that's happened in a class or something?
It wasn't in a class, but like just the other day, it was like after a class, and it was not even my class.
Mhm.
But I was there was like a friend of mine and she was kind of working on some headstandy stuff, so I was like kind of trying to like talk to her about some details and kind of getting her comfortable and working with stuff. And so I was very focused on her, right? Like I'm looking at her elbows and her shoulders and you know kind of micro managing like alignment. And I'm like telling her lots of things and she's hearing some of them and not hearing some of them and she's working on whatever she's working on. And all of a sudden I hear like a bam like behind me because I'm looking this direction. I'm not teaching a class. It's just me and this human. But there was a young man behind me that was listening to all my cues and he was doing it. And I was like initially like scared or like I didn't understand 100% what had happened. And he's young. He's a young man. So he like landing on his back didn't like it just excited him. It didn't bother him at all. It didn't break him like it would some people. But he got up and was like, "That was amazing. I've never done that before." And I'm like, "Yeah, next time like let me look at you while I'm doing like cuz like those like all those cues weren't for you. You know what I mean? Like those cues were for like that human right here I was looking at." So that was kind of funny. I had a dude come in with a blanket one time, like minutes late, like 10 minutes, like 10 minutes late with like a blanket and like sat down on the floor and he had like jeans and stuff.
Oh, he needed some breath.
Yeah,
work.
no, and he was doing some of the stuff we called and some of the stuff he was just doing his own thing and some of the stuff he was looking around and I was like, all right, like
Bless his heart. Good for him.
it felt like a homeless person had showed up into class all of a sudden. Like I really like I don't think he was, but like that's what it felt like for a second. And I was just like, okay, like activate through your feet, you know.
Take a nap
Like
if you need
or like
to.
he was doing some stuff just really like I don't think he had a yoga background. So he was just kind of freestyling.
Has he ever come back?
Oh yeah, I've seen him again.
Cool.
I've seen him again. He got a little more in line.
Yeah.
But not like a lot more in line. Like
You know, at least he's there.
he's doing something in his own practice. I don't 100% understand.
Give him props for that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean good for him, you know. I don't know what he's out in the world meeting people. That's good. It's not in these times. That's in the before times. In the before times.
Yeah. Well,
And I've had a lady do a practice that had nothing to do with what I was calling like the whole time. Like the whole time. Like it was like she had a yoga with Adrian like in an earbud that I didn't see, and she
Yeah.
was doing her own thing. And I'm just like I'm like calling and I'm like looking, okay. I don't know why you came here for this, but all right. Like and I've had like a lady like just child's pose or lay down the whole time, which is fine. That's not anything that
I've kind
that's
of done that.
I used to take my kids in the before times to like library yoga, and I think each of them at different times tested me because like they wouldn't want to go. They'd be like resistive, and I'd be like, "We agreed to go, like we're going." And so they literally get there and just lay down, just to see if I would be like, "Do yoga" or whatever. And I was like, "No, it's your practice, man. Lay down." Like I could tell they did it initially to like to see if I would react, right? But
Mhm.
like I didn't react. I was like, "Great." I mean, if the worst thing a teenager does is take a nap for 45 minutes without any screens in the late afternoon, I mean, most of them could probably use that, to be honest. So,
Yeah, I guess we all
what's
get
the
on our
weirdest thing you've ever seen in a yoga class?
I haven't even thought about it. Well, weird? I don't know. I mean, I've seen people do things that really aren't weird. I mean, that are just like well, I've seen people kind of do their own thing. Like even in one of your classes, I saw somebody put a strap around their head and start doing some weird stuff with the strap around their head.
Yeah,
And I mean, or no, it was around the back of their neck. It was
yeah.
on their neck,
You'd be
and
like,
it
I don't
was
know if I would have called that.
that. I don't think you did. I'm positive you didn't. And it was not safe looking. I don't know if it was weird, but it was not something to
It must have felt good, because it didn't
a
look
good
like it. It
stretch.
did. It didn't. Yeah, a good mid neck stretch.
Yeah, really. I don't know. I don't know if I can. I mean, as far as teaching, I haven't taught. So, um, and here I am in teacher training for the second time, but that's good.
You taught me things, so that's not 100% true.
You were a teacher before you were a teacher. I can tell you that. You taught me the day from the first day I met you. So
We had a nice yoga teacher training together.
we did.
A little,
And I
a
guess
li-
my last question oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you go. Our last question is what?
What is your advice for teachers in training? For new teach, you know, do you have advice for
Don't
somebody
over,
who's studying?
don't, yeah, all right. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it.
Do you remember how
It's,
nervous we all were?
yeah, no, I still get nervous. I still get nervous, but still, don't overthink it. Listen, you're gonna get everybody there. You're gonna start them in a position. You're gonna tell them to breathe. You're gonna like side stretch, twisty, twisty, forward fold. Like get it equal on both sides. Don't overthink it. And time will start to eat up and you won't ever do all the things that you intended on doing. Or the class will. The other thing is don't get tied into your plan so much that you're not in the moment
That's good advice.
because sometimes a plan is just a list of things that don't happen.
Yeah.
And some of the worst classes I've ever taught were the most planned out classes. Like I had a beautiful class in my head. If I was doing the class, it would have been perfect. But in the view in front of me, in the world that I was actually teaching in the reality of that class was not landing and it was not what people needed. And like I've even done it where I had a great class that I taught one way and I was so proud of it that I was like, I'm doing the same thing next week, but I'm gonna add in XYZ and and had it go terrible. Terrible. Because it wasn't, even if some of the same people were there, we weren't all in the same space. I was forcing something that wasn't the moment. And I had to look at it objectively after it was all done and be like, that wasn't me being present. That was me being tied to an idea of something I thought was going to be a good move, you know, and it wasn't true. And then like, this is your practice. This is your like teaching practice. And they're related because it's all yoga. But your practice is not your teaching. It's two different things.
Mm.
So there's lots of people that are going to hit a beautiful downward dog, but it doesn't mean that they could lead people through a class.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience that somebody has in your class has almost nothing to do with how you feel about it. Like, you're going to feel like you knocked it out of the park, or you're going to feel like you messed everything up and it was horrible. However you feel it, you're going to feel however you feel about it. And that emotion has almost nothing to do with the experience that the people in your class had. And so you don't need to bring it up, because that's distracting from their experience, because it's not about you. I think that is as important as anything.
That's good advice.
Because I've had classes that I thought were good and they did not land with people. And I've also had classes where I went home and kicked myself for a week, where I was like, I missed the twist on the second side. I called this wrong. I messed up my rights and lefts. And I was just very like, just really down on myself about it. And then a week or two later, had someone come to me and be like, that was the best class I've ever had. And I was like, how is that possible? You know what I mean? Like, I literally still don't understand why that was. But whatever it was in that class, their experience was not my experience. So don't get tied to that.
Okay. That's great advice.
So you can do a shitty job and still do a great job. You have no idea.
I've heard you say you didn't like the way you taught that day, when I thought it was wonderful. So I would imagine, well,
I think, yeah. And I think, if you're a guide in yoga, whatever you're doing, try not to put too much of you into like, you got to put the you to teach like in an authentic way, but like standing in the front of class and saying how like nervous you are about something, or how whatever you are about something, or how this is not about you. So don't. Yeah, I mean, if you're nervous, people are going to know you're nervous. You don't have to tell them. You can play poker a little bit,
that's good. Can you think of anything?
I got like 19 things, so that was pretty good.
You got what?
I got like 19 things. I said the 19 things.
I really appreciate you talking with me today, Jason.
Yeah, I missed you so much. It's good to see your face.
Oh gosh, I can't wait. I haven't been out of the house for a year. It'll be a year on February 14th, except to go to the doctor and the vet. So
Valentine's Day.
Well, no, it's the 16th. I went to a yoga class. That's the last thing I did.
Back in the before times.
So I can't wait. I'm looking forward to yoga on the deck, yoga in the park, yoga anywhere, and just seeing.
It seemed like a beautiful day, but my yoga in the park already got canceled. I don't know what happened.
Well, it's cold.
It is cold. I did it at the senior center this morning. It went fine.
Yeah, and I'm old enough to come to your senior center class. Okay.
I tricked people into doing a cheerleader stretch with their hands on the wall.
You did? Well, good. See, that would be good.
Like that.
Yeah,
they did it too. They didn't know they were going to do it, but then they did
it. Good.
With varying degrees of success.
Well, see, and that's why I look forward to seeing you again, because you legs up the wall, you like that, and your tree and your.
Oh yeah, how I bring yoga into my everyday life. Back to like question 5 questions ago, whatever it was. If I'm having a really bad day, like, or I'm feeling it get to me, if I can find a quiet area where I can have some privacy, I still will go legs up a wall for like 5 or 10 minutes. I think that's great.
Little meditation, little breathing, little legs up the wall.
Just let it go, man. Just let
It's
it go.
good. Sounds good.
Well, I love you, Trish.
I love you too, and thank you so much. And
All
I
right.
can't wait to see your face in person soon.
I'll try to grow the beard out again.
You look great, with or without. Love you.